Welcome to the Zveda podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lorena.
We're a community for women by women. We're here to help each other rise to impact generations. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the Zveda She Rises podcast. We're so glad to be here with you today.
Hi. It's good to see you all again.
I hope that you're doing well. I know there's a lot going on in the world around us, and for many, we are getting ready for school.
That's right. We're getting closer. Oh my gosh.
So whether you are working and you're about to step into college, or you're a working mom and you're balancing work and trying to figure out how this homeschool thing is actually going to happen, or maybe you're a teacher and you are pulling your hair out because you have no idea how this is going to go with leading online classes and being introduced to a whole new realm of things. We just want to let you know that, hey, we're right there with you. Mm-hmm. We have so many friends that are experiencing these changes. I myself am about to embark on this great adventure. My 14-year-old son will be doing classes right here from our home. And it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And aren't you actually getting your upstairs space set up for you to have your workspace on your desk, and then a desk for your son too?
Yeah, that's something we wanted to talk about. It's just, a couple of things to consider. Now more than ever, it's really important to take care of yourself, ladies, and your families. And I know that can be difficult, but one of the best ways is to set up a dedicated space. Mm-hmm. It does not have to be fancy, and it does not have to be expensive, but that will allow you. And we've talked about that in prior podcasts, being remote and working remote and setting up a workspace in your home, your apartment, wherever you may be, that's dedicated to that, so that you can close that down and walk away at the end of the day. Well, the same thing is going to apply to your kiddos. Separating those spaces will allow them mentally to close out the school day. So I would just encourage you, take a look around, maybe look at how you can rearrange their room, or maybe there's a common area in your home where you can set your kids up so that they can really just start off with success and then close it at the end of the day, to really separate that work from play and family time mentality.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. I know for me, just even this past week, I got a new desk so that I could have that set up in a separate room in my house, so that I wasn't working literally from my bedroom, and I'd look over and see my bed like, ooh, that looks tempting. I just want to go take a nap, So it's really nice, like you're saying, to create that separate space physically, so it helps dedicate that mental space as well. Yeah. So it's a great just nugget of wisdom for the times that we're in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And share, we would love to hear, this is new for all of us, working at home for the most part, working remote, taking care of our kids, starting school. Would love to hear how it's working for you. And maybe you have some tips that you could share with the community, whether you have kids in school or you're in school yourself. Let's talk about it. Send us your tips, send us your questions. We'd love to be able to feature those on a future podcast.
Yes. Thanks, Jamie.
Yes.
So now we'll transition into our main topic for this episode. This episode is called We Aspire to Awakening, and we are embarking into a new season, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
So we have just wrapped up our season on mindsets, debunking the old mindsets so we can establish new healthy, empowering ones. And now we're going to be going through some of our core values as Zveda. And so those 4 core values are: we aspire to awakening, we believe in the confidence of being, we give courage to embrace the uniqueness of a woman's heart, and we honor the wisdom from women across different cultures and generations. So those are some pretty hefty values, and we want to take time to really dig into each of those. We might even have like a season on each of those core values, because there's just a lot of content to dig into.
Yeah, there is.
So for our first episode in this new season, we're going to dive into our first value, and that's we aspire to awakening. And this main section is broken into two different parts. The first part is all about remembering that child likeness, kind of going back and revisiting the girl, the child from childhood, and bringing her back to life.
Yeah.
And I know Jamie has a lot to share on that first part. And then the second part is all about the principle of birthing things into being, that we as women have that just unique, just part of our design. And so we're talking about that principle of bringing things, creating things into being. So the first part is, remember the child and bring her back to life. Jamie, that phrase, you had coined that, or you had heard of it and kind of pieced it together. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Something that we've talked about in previous podcasts is working with a coach, mentor. And I like to think we try really hard to practice what we preach.
That's right.
So I work with one, and she really helped me to see that I needed to bring back some of the dreams and the memories that I had as a child. And when I was little, we lived in the country. My dad had this huge barn and with a big work bench or table in it. And I used that as my stage. I had 3 siblings and mom, and she would tell us to get outside until lunchtime. And I would just go and create.
Cool.
That's what I did. I would take my boombox. Yep. Those were a thing then. And I would head out to the barn, and I would jump up on that stage and I would perform. I would create songs. I would dance. I would sing. I would teach. I'm pretty sure I bossed some invisible people around a bit. But I created. And, I would also make up commercials and movies and act out the parts. And that just really woke something up inside of me when I started talking about that time period in my life.
Wow.
My voice inflection changed. I was smiling. I was laughing. I felt lighter. And
when you were sharing this with your coach?
When I was sharing it with my coach,
Yeah.
she was like, I can completely see a change and hear a change in your voice.
Wow.
I think we need to dig into a little bit more about who was that girl and where has she gone. So I have just been on a journey of really awakening some of those things that once really inspired me as a child. And I think it's important. And one of the things we wanted to talk about is, what about you? We can often set aside dreams because, that's just ridiculous, or I don't have time for that, or we get caught in this career climb that we don't even realize, like we've talked about before, we don't even realize we're not even supposed to be in. And it's not fulfilling for us. It's really not, I don't know, just making us happy or joyful or moving us forward in our lives. And for some reason we can set aside those things that at one time were truly dreams. So my question would be, what is that for you? What are some of the things that you dreamed about as a young woman, as a child, even the things that you would pretend, or the careers that you dreamed about? And how can you take some time to bring some of that back to life and really look at that and compare where you might be right now in your life to what some of those original dreams were, because maybe there's something there.
Yeah, that's great. That actually reminds me of an experience back when I was in high school, or no, it was college. Went on a trip to Belize, and was in a space with a lot of just young adults. And we actually created this pared de sueños, which means dream wall. And we put some butcher paper on this big wall and gave all these young adults markers and just had them go at it and write their dreams on this wall. And it was kind of interesting. There were a couple of people that I talked to because they were standing there holding their marker, not knowing what to write.
Wow.
And I think it just even circles back to, Jamie, what you were saying, the importance of having a coach, a mentor, a friend, someone to ask some of those probing questions, even to get our minds just out of the one track that it's been on of, I got to produce, I got to, climb the career ladder that I've, been aiming towards, but just to get out of that thinking and have the freedom to just dream, like to write whatever it is that brings you to life, and have that space and that freedom to do that. So I think that's great, Jamie, like really just going back to the little girl from childhood and bringing her back to life through the dreams and the passions, even that we did during, pretend play when we were younger.
Yeah. And talking, like to your point, talking to somebody about it. Like, hey, you know what? I've been remembering that I had this interest in singing or music
Or teaching.
Or I would always, counsel my friends, whatever those things are, there might be something there for a career opportunity.
Yeah, I know for me, when I was growing up, my mom would always take me to the teacher's supply store, and she'd be like, go pick out anything you want. And so I got like this little calendar with the little dates, and laminated it so I could stick my little dates on it. And I even got an overhead one year for Christmas. And I'd have my mom like help me copy worksheets that I would get from my teachers from school. And I'd come home and I would pretend school with my little imaginary roster of 20 kids. Like I love to do that. And so for me, that's an insight and a nugget that, okay, that outlet of being able to teach or convey information for the knowledge and the benefit of others, it stems back to what I used to do as a little girl.
Right.
Yeah. So it's powerful. And how that ties back to this core value of ours with Zveda, that we aspire to awakening. It's the idea that you can only be awakened, or you can only awaken others in ways that you've been awakened in yourself. So it starts with us as individuals. And that's why Jamie and I wanted to talk about going back into your past and remembering those times when you would just be in such a flow as a child of what brought you to life, what needs to be cultivated in that inner girl to bring her to the surface in this season.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and it's never too late. That's one of the things that came to mind when you were talking is it doesn't matter what age you are. My mom, she has always dreamed about writing a children's book. And I'm like, well, make it happen.
Yeah.
Nothing is stopping us from bringing something like that forward that we've wanted to do. When that's awakened in us, whether it's by a thought that we have, maybe a movie we see, like, oh, you know what? I really wanted to do that. We could even dream about something that awakens something in us.
like a dream in the night, you mean?
A dream in the night, just waking up and realizing, oh my gosh,
I do want to do that.
I do want to do that. It's important to me. And not ignoring those moments of light.
Yeah.
Because that could really help drive you into something new, something that needs to be brought forward on the earth.
Yeah. That's awesome, Jamie. And we'll touch on that here in just a second. But to your point, Jamie, of, what is it that you want to create? It doesn't necessarily have to take the place of your full-time job or what your career is right now, or even if you're a full-time student. Like, it doesn't have to replace that necessarily. It could be a side business that you do kind of part-time here and there. It can even just be a project that maybe it only takes 3 or 4 months to do.
Or
volunteering or a hobby on the side. So there's many creative ways to bring it into your life with current commitments that you still have.
Right.
So, I think that first part is remembering the girl and bringing her back to life, is so critical for this value of we aspire to awakening. So the second part of our this main section of the podcast is the phrase that we are wombed beings. I think it's just really unique when you just look at the design of the female body and we have a womb, just simple as that. We know that, there's all kinds of, different opinions and thoughts about, whether if you want natural children or not, or all of that. So we're approaching this from more of a principle level that we were designed with this innate ability to bring things into existence, to create. And so that's really what we want to emphasize with this is we have that ability to have some kind of dream, idea, vision, and then inside of us, we incubate it and then we birth it into existence. And it can be like Jamie, like you're saying, like with your mom, like she always wanted to write a children's book, that idea. And then as she starts, taking steps and acting on it, it's birthed up from her.
Right.
So
that's so good. Yeah. Just that, bringing something into being. And I think that speaks to the action that's required.
Yeah.
We can, which I'm completely guilty of this, can overthink something or even try and talk myself out of it. Like, I'm not good enough to do that.
Or it's not going to be perfect, so I don't even want to start.
Right. But
that's what I wrestle with.
if there's something that continues to come up in you, I think you got to pay attention to that. And the first step is taking just a step, a step forward in understanding how could you bring this to be.
Yeah, that's really good. I think one of the questions we wanted to ask to kind of expand this a little bit more is how do we actually birth life around us? How do we create things around us? And I think there are kind of two different parts to that we've been thinking about. One is that, we're embracing our roles as women, and we just have different, abilities and giftings, all of us. And I think that, one core component of that is that our success is measured in love. It's not necessarily trying to be the same as someone else, man or woman, right? Like it's our ability to love and to love sacrificially and extravagantly to others. That it's a unique thing that we carry. We all carry that. I think also another kind of component of that is focusing on relationship over gain and compassion over convenience. I think that is something that is so powerful that we just as women can incubate and birth from us. And no matter what we're called to, choosing to extend compassion and create a bridge towards someone instead of just choosing the easy way, right? Or
looking at everything like a competition or a contest.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's just our unique role as women, like those components or parts of our design we can bring in to birth things around us. I think another thing is taking heed of the words that we speak. I know we want to park here a little bit and really dig into that. Knowing that we have the power, to create things around us. So the power is in life and death is in the tongue, as written in Scripture. And also it's not only the words that we speak, but maybe the ones that we choose to not even say, to refrain from speaking. So Jamie, any thoughts on that? I know you've been thinking about this a lot recently.
Yes, I have. I actually led a message on this very topic, the power of the tongue, not too long ago for our church. And we often think about, even in Scripture when it says there's life and death in the tongue, our words can cause great damage. We often think for someone else, like I know that if I say something hurtful to Lorena, it's going to hurt Lorena. But we don't often think about the words we say about ourselves.
Wow. And what that creates.
The people around us and what that is creating. And it's, guys, this doesn't have to be like I'm just going at it over myself, of just running myself down. It could be something as simple as, I just don't like my hair.
Like that negative self-talk.
Just the negative self-talk, or, you know what? I'm just tired. I'm depressed. I'm down. Making those statements, we just don't realize the impact that can have. From the Christian standpoint, that opens the door for the enemy to just come in and wreak havoc. When we start reflecting on and thinking on things that are down, that are running our bodies, our minds, our talents down, when we're gossiping and talking bad about people that are our friends or our bosses or our coworkers, all of that creates an environment around us. And pretty soon, what's interesting is there's actually a science behind this, and you can look this up, just Google it. There's so many articles and books written on the science behind our brains believe what we tell them. I want you to think about that for a minute. Our brains believe what we continue to tell them. If we tell our brain constantly, I'm no good, our brain believes it. And therefore that's being birthed out of us. But if I tell my brain, I am excited and I am strong and I am full of joy and the positive nature, I love my hair, I love my body, I love that I can walk and run and sing and dance, I love that I have friends, I'm not alone. Those phrases, our brain will also believe. They talk about it in the financial world, where if all I say is, I'll never have enough money, I'm poor, I can't afford that. Well, guess what? That's exactly what's going to continue to happen in our lives. But if we begin to say, no, there is the favor of the Lord over my life, I am going to be successful in everything that I put my hands to. I am learning how to control my finances. They're not going to control me. I'm saving, and someday I am going to live in a place of wealth and abundance. It's a completely different atmosphere that we create. And again, our brain begins to take that as truth.
I think that's a great point, Jamie. And I'll just rabbit trail just for a short distance here, not too long. I think something on that though is if you are feeling some kind of different emotions, I will say take time to process through those.
Oh, absolutely.
because that definitely is important, because what emotions can reveal is maybe a core lie that you're believing.
Yes.
And as Jamie is saying, the core lie does come out in the words that we speak because it's already deeply implanted in our minds and we already are believing it. And so the words that we speak, maybe even it's like just having an awareness of different phrases that you realize that you're saying and that you're declaring over yourself, over others. And is it more negative or is it life-giving? Is it in alignment with God's word and his character, or is it not? And then begin to see, oh, well, maybe that's why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, because it's rooted maybe in a core lie. And so I think,
so good.
So I think, just taking time to, I don't want to get like super formal here, but like do an audit of what you're saying, even if it's just just super simple in your mind, really to take inventory of those words that we're declaring, because it does birth something. I have just was thinking, meditating on the scripture of Proverbs 18:21, and it says the power, or the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. Same principle. If you sow in the spirit, you'll reap from the spirit. And if you sow in the flesh, you'll reap in the flesh. Same thing. It's what we declare. Like Jamie said, the environment that we create for ourselves and other people is what can come out of us through the words that we speak. And something even that, to kind of, flip it on the other extreme, like in a really great sense, is the words that we speak can actually activate people in their destiny. I was just reading in the scriptures recently in the Gospels that Jesus's mother, that Mary, when they were at the wedding feast, she asked Jesus to, help us out, turn some water into wine or do something. She was like, she told the disciples, do whatever he tells you to do, but she asked her son for help. And that's when Jesus's ministry started, was because of the words that she was willing to humble herself, but boldly ask him. And then because of their relationship, he did. So I think it's also really powerful that our words really can just initiate someone on a path and a trajectory for the Lord, and to really birth what their calling is into existence.
Right. That's so good. And just to reiterate what you're saying, Lorena, examples of digging into, okay, what have I been saying about this and why, that can often indicate a place that we need healing in.
Right. Exactly.
And we can overcome that. You know, it's important to state that. Like, for example, in my own life, often I would declare very negative things over my finances. And only in the last couple of years did I realize I had experienced some pain from like a poverty mindset. I had this mindset of poverty. It was born from when I was very young and hearing people fight over money and just having this really unhealthy relationship with money to the point where I didn't even want to look at it. It's like, okay, if I don't look at the account, it's not real. But that awakened something in me to realize, oh my gosh, this is something that I've believed that's false. And I actually have the power to take an action to change this.
Yeah.
So I can change my routines. I can learn more about finance. I can now step into a more positive framework about what I say about my money. And there's so many examples. I'm sure like you, as I'm speaking or we were speaking, you're thinking of, oh my gosh, like, you know, I might always say, I'll never get married.
Wow.
And, you know, maybe sit there for a minute. Like, where is that coming from? Where does that thought come from? Does it come from some tough relationships from your past?
Maybe.
And maybe that's a place of an area where you can seek some healing in to overcome that and change that statement.
Yeah, that's great, Jamie. Just as you're talking, there's one really practical kind of activation that I've done a few times and have taken some different, just ladies that I've coached before through this exercise, but it's a really good one and it's super simple. But basically take just a sheet of blank paper and fold it in half, hot dog style. And then on the left side, write the word fact. Then on the right side, write the words story. And what basically it is write down like a fact that is objectively true in your life, or what the experience was maybe that you had in your, let's say your childhood, like Jamie's example, like, you know, the fact was she saw people fighting over money. Okay. That's what she saw. That's what she experienced. But then on the other side of that line, on the story column, what is the story that you told yourself from that experience, Jamie?
Oh yeah. Money's bad.
That's the narrative. And then begin to distinguish the difference between the two. What's the fact? What is objectively true versus what is the story? What is the narrative that has been wired into our thinking? And then kind of lower down on the sheet, further down, write that same fact again, that same experience word for word. And then the powerful exercise then is to write a new story, to write something new that you will then choose to make agreement with and then get rid of the old story.
I love that because then it's right in front of you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the minute you catch yourself thinking that old truth,
what's the new story?
Or even saying it out loud, you can catch yourself. Like, nope, that's old. I'm not living in that. This is what I'm declaring over my life now.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like I said, I've taken many different women that I've worked with through that exercise, and it's been incredibly healing. So as we've talked about, you know, remembering the girl, bringing her back to life, and then also embracing the uniqueness of our design as women and what we can bring through the words that we speak, or even the ones that we refrain from saying sometimes. That really gets to the core of this value of ours, is that we aspire to awakening. And so just this one phrase I wanted to conclude this section of our of this episode with is that if we run towards sacrificial love, we will find that our lives will be deeply satisfying. So in the words that we speak, in the ways that we can dig into our past even and discover moments to heal, we'll be deeply satisfied. Anything the world tries to sell us apart from creating and from birthing robs us of our God-given design and life's fulfillment.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. So, all right. So health and hospitality tip, Jamie.
Yes.
What do we got? It's hot.
It's time for a little lecture, ladies.
Short lecture.
Short lecture.
Yeah.
It's so important to drink water.
Yes.
I hear so many people saying, I just don't drink water.
Or I have a headache.
I have a headache. I'm breaking out. I feel
those different
dizzy. And I'm like,
symptoms.
okay, what are you drinking? What do you drink? Well, I drink Coke, or I don't drink that much water.
Or I drink a lot of coffee.
A lot of coffee.
Which isn't bad.
No, I love coffee and I love my wines, but we have to have balance, and it's
Yeah.
really important to drink a lot of water to stay hydrated. But I guarantee you'll see some health improvements, your skin, your body function, just feeling more energized. So just a tip, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And before you reach for that soda or coffee, the 5th cup of coffee, whatever it might be, go grab you a nice cold glass of water.
That's great, Jamie. And now I'll get a little scientific for us here. Let's
do it.
This one health professional in South Austin, actually, he works with a lot of people who have what they're diagnosed with as like terminal illnesses. And he's seen a lot of people turn around just through changing their views about hydration. So not only how much water, but the kind of water that you drink, foods, things like that. And we'll talk more about that in another episode later on. But he had mentioned that it's really good to drink at least half of your body weight in ounces every day to get the proper just amount of water in your system, because he was describing, he's like, you've got different utility systems in your body. You've got perspiration, respiration, urination, and then your colon, if you want to go there. But he said, he was like, so you have to keep these things just moving. And I was like, wow, that totally makes sense. Yeah. So that's what he recommended. And also the kind of water that you drink is important, knowing that we eat a lot of different foods and drink different beverages during the day. Those can have acids in them. And so to drink water that has a higher pH level can actually filter our body from some of those acids. So maybe like pick up like a, super fancy bottle of water, like Essentia or something like that every once in a while, just to get some of those acids moving out of your body.
Yeah.
So
add some electrolytes to your water.
That too. Yes. To help with energy and boost that. So yeah. Thanks for that tip, Jamie, for health and hospitality. Okay. So the last part, before we wrap up, is we wanted to take a question from the community. And the question is that I have a really hard time holding back my criticism of others. So how can I grow in my ability to be compassionate toward people when I don't see that they're measuring up? It's a great question. And I feel like I'm actually kind of interested to tackle this because I'm walking this out and just growing in compassion. So a couple of things that I've just been dialoguing in my quiet time with the Lord about is first thing is to extend grace on yourself. I know for me, I'm super hard on myself. I'm working through a lot of negative self-talk, especially at different points in my life where I may be going through like a transition and it's just change is hard, so that, it's stressful, adds on to all of that. But extend grace and forgiveness and compassion to yourself. Because if we love ourselves well, that only spills over into others. The next piece I would say to answer this really great question is that to try to gain more context for another person and value the person's inherent value as a person more than what you're seeing as their current state of brokenness. Like, see who they are as more valuable than where they're at in their process. That just extends so much compassion. And I was even reading, I can't remember if it's Matthew 5, 6, or 7, but I was reading the Sermon on the Mount recently and some of the scriptures related to that. And what's written in the word is that like, you'll be judged by the measure that you judge others. And so like, if we're from a critical spirit, if we're criticizing others in every little bit in detail and not giving them the time and space to work things out and be in the process they're in, whoa, like that's just like pause. So I think just really like seeing people through the eyes of Jesus and really just valuing who they are as a person will give you compassion to just extend grace where they're at in their process.
Yeah, for sure. I think, to add to that, one of the things that I've been talking a lot about lately is let's just assume the best intent.
That's really good. Yeah.
Let's assume that everyone that is coming to me is coming with the best intent. And, to expand on what you're saying, Lorena, and just understanding people, there are oftentimes things that are going on in people's lives that we have no visibility into.
Yeah, it's true.
So challenges that are causing, just changes in their mood or how they react to situations. Oftentimes it has nothing to do with us, and it has everything to do with what's going on in their family life or the friendship circle or their health. And, although we want to respect people's privacy, sometimes just hey, how are you doing?
Checking in, checking out the situation.
Long way.
True.
So just assuming that good intent and learning more about personalities is also key. Just recognizing that we are all really unique beings. And whereas I might be type A, outgoing, organized, checklist, someone else might be an introvert that doesn't really like to be around people, but they can crunch the heck out of numbers or research. And we both have value. We just need to see those key value points in each other. So
hopefully that's helpful to just respond to your question, of how can I grow in compassion when I want to just criticize other people? So continue to just share with us your questions, ladies. We are so thankful that you're a part of this community, and we love getting to grow with you and rise together. So thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you for our next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Zveda podcast. Keep your questions coming so we can rise together. Visit Zveda.com to talk to us and join our community. That's Zveda.com. We'll see you next week.